I have written and directed a ton of short films in my career, but I've never been truly happy with how they turned out. It always seems better in my mind. But this all changed with my last short film, The Untold Story of Apollo 18. For the first time, I felt like the story is actually good. It's fast-paced, there's character development, the story goes to a climax, it's fun and light, but also surprising and unpredictable. Never did a story that I wrote tick so many boxes. And the funny part is that I spent the least amount of time in writing this, because for the first time I used ChatGPT on an actual film project. Now, don't get me wrong, guys, I didn't ask ChatGPT to write me an entire scenario. You see, you still need to write it yourself, but see the AI as your assistant, your buddy to brainstorm with and throw some ideas back and forth. But you are still the creative one in charge. So let's start with the first step, which is setting up the theme and genre. What are you going to write a story about? Make sure that it's something that you're passionate about. I'm very passionate when it comes down to space and everything, so I decided to write a story about an astronaut who's on a mission. I've got my protagonist and what he'll be doing. An astronaut on a mission. I know, still very vague, but that's the first step. The second step is to define the boundaries, and this is one of the most important things when writing a script, both for you and for ChatGPT. What are you able to do and what not? I started a series of short films called Stuck. The idea is that with every short film, I only want to have one actor and one location. So that was going to be one of my boundaries. It makes the production easier as I only need to arrange one location and only find one actor. In fact, I even chose to play the protagonist myself. But also think about other boundaries specific to the story that you're telling. Like, I'm not able to build a fully interactive spacecraft. Floating in zero gravity is also tricky, so I don't want to do that over the entire short film. But what is possible is to create a Mars or moon landscape. You know, I could recreate mission control perhaps? You know, just create a list of what is and what isn't possible. Alright, step number 3. I'm gonna ask ChatGPT to give me 5 ideas for a story about an astronaut on a mission. Give it a list of your boundaries and let it run. Is there anything in there that you can work with or sparks your interest? I mean, I like the idea of going to the moon for a mission. And perhaps we can ask ChatGPT to give me some more ideas what the mission on the moon could be. But remind it about your boundaries. There's only one astronaut and everything should happen on the surface of the moon. One of the ideas that it gave me was to plant the American flag. That gave me an idea. What if I create a fictional moon mission, Apollo 18, which never existed, but instead of putting up the flag, the talent has to put it up again after it tumbled down from a previous mission. That idea alone sounds super funny to me. Now, one of the aspects that was very important to me was the right look and feel. And since there's only one light source on the moon, my color grading was going to be very important. Now, Premiere's lumetri is okay, but not great. That's why I used CinemaGrade. Big thanks to them for also sponsoring this video. Now, CinemaGrade is a plugin for Premiere, DaVinci, or Final Cut. Now, what's so amazing about CinemaGrade is its unique approach to how you correct and grade your shots, which creates a super fast workflow. You start by adding CinemaGrade to all your clips, after which you can do all your color grading tasks in their own app. You can see all your clips here on the bottom, and you typically start with one hero shot. There are color management tools as well as color checker support. On the right, we can find our usual controls, but the way that CinemaGrade is designed is that you just point and click, a very visual way of color grading or correcting, which is how it should be. Just select one of the tools on top, which by the way are in order of doing your correction, and then just click the area that you want to adjust and drag your mouse. We can make changes for specific levels or colors. You can even do that on false color to see exactly the areas that you're making changes to. Now, once you're happy with the correction, you can go to the second step, which is matching. The one we just corrected is the hero shot, then select all the rest. Then if we start to match, we can copy the correction from the hero and apply it. If needed, we can further tweak the matched shot. If it looks good, we can move on to the next shot and repeat this process. Finally comes the grading, in which we can really define the look of the film. There's even a built-in film grain tool, as well as a great library of LUTs and looks that we can choose from, which by the way we can all view in real time, so you don't have to flip through a list of LUTs to see how they look. And there's even a LUT transfer option, which allows you to import a still from your favorite movie and basically steal the grade with a click of a button. Of course, it's never going to be perfect, but it sets a great baseline to further tweak. You can apply your grade to the entire group of clips. Usually this is going to be per scene that you correct and then grade. If you're working on bigger projects, this is a tool you absolutely need to make your whole correction and grading workflow a whole lot easier. You can give it a try for free. More information about CinemaGrade in the description. down below. Alright, now back to our short film scenario. We got a setup. I told ChatGPT about the concept that I got, and for step number 4, I asked it to give me some ideas for what could go wrong on such a mission. You see, we're writing a story based on the 3-act structure. I highly suggest to watch the video in the description if you want to know more about what that is. But basically, your protagonist wants to reach something. However, something gets in the way of reaching their goal, a struggle that only gets bigger. Eventually, the talent does reach its goal, but in a surprising way. So for every obstacle, I will ask ChatGPT for ideas. Ask it specifically for surprising, funny, or sad resolutions. Remember, you are the writer and director, so always ask very specific questions to ChatGPT as you want an answer that fits your goal. Eventually, I got my 3-act structure. There's a setup, an incident, the character works towards solving that issue, an all is lost moment, and finally, the resolution. We've got a nice story arc.
Nice.
However, it's missing depth. So for step number 5, I'm going to paste my entire script into ChatGPT and ask it to give me 5 ideas to create better character development. You see, your character needs to go through a personal change as well. It needs to learn something from the journey. It needs to change the character in a way. Here's where ChatGPT gave me the idea of making my astronaut clumsy, which fitted my comedy style that I was going for. The other astronauts always laugh with him and his clumsiness. Things go wrong with setting up the flag, so he makes things worse. And here's where he turns himself around. He wants to prove his worthy. He's gone through a character arc, as we also say. Step number 6, dialogue. You can go ahead and write the dialogue for your scenario, and when done, throw it through ChatGPT. I would do this scene by scene. The idea of better dialogue comes from what's actually being said and sub-dialogue. You know, when someone cheated, you can say,
"You cheated on me."
But you can also say, "You," with a long break. That's enough for the audience to know that the character has been cheated on if it's visually shown as well. I would also ask ChatGPT to rewrite the dialogue to be more funny, heroic, or dramatic. If you feel like the sentences are too long, ask it to make it shorter. As a non-English person, my vocabulary is very limited, so ChatGPT suggested a ton of better and more meaningful words. You know, as an example, my story is about the Apollo 18 mission, but for someone who doesn't know about the moon missions, this doesn't say much. So I had to give a brief history lesson at the start of my short film and make it clear that Apollo 17 was the last one. So 18 never took place. Now my initial intro was way too long, and I was able to cut the duration in half by just rewriting the voiceover, or letting ChatGPT rewrite it. And this brings me to the final step towards writing an amazing film scenario, which are the details. I just asked ChatGPT what are the elements of a good scenario. It gave me a list of 20 things. We already took care of many of those, but go over that list and see where you can improve your scenario. Like, is there a form of symbolism in your script, something that tells a deeper meaning? Are there elements of foreshadowing, hints or clues about what will happen later in the story? Does the character have moral dilemmas? This is a great checklist to further tweak your scenario. And this is how I wrote the story of Apollo 18, which you can watch by clicking the card here on my left for if you haven't seen it yet. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Cinema Great, for the support, and as always, stay creative.